The cup was still warm when I found it on the counter. Not mine. I don't drink mint tea. The mug was floral, one of the chipped ones we keep in the back of the cabinet, the kind guests never see, the kind he shouldn't even know about. But it was there, steam curling lazily above the rim. The spoon resting inside it was damp, like someone had stirred sugar just seconds ago. And the silence? Too clean. Too perfect. Like someone had just left in a hurry. I didn't move. Just stared at that mug, heart pacing like a wild animal in my chest. A scent lingered in the air, cheap cologne. Not mine. And not the kind she ever liked. Not the kind I ever wore. I checked the sink. 2 plates. 1 wine glass. 1 empty beer bottle. The knife block had 1 steak knife missing. I walked slowly through the house, not calling her name. Just listening. No footsteps. No laughter. Not even the faint humming she does when she's lying. The bedroom door was half shut. I nudged it open and saw it. The smallest thing. The kind of detail you only catch when your brain's trained to see patterns. His jacket, on my side of the bed, hung over the arm of the chair I use every morning to tie my boots. I didn't explode. Didn't even flinch. I just sat down beside it. Took a deep breath. Opened the top drawer of my nightstand. Reached past the flashlight and the old receipts. And pressed play. You see, what Cora didn't know, what he certainly didn't know, is that the moment I felt the shift, I wired the house with audio recorders. And the conversation I heard yesterday changed everything. Not just the betrayal. The plan. Their plan. And now I know what I need to do. This morning, she thinks I'm gone. But I'm not gone. I'm watching. And I'm waiting. I didn't sleep last night. Not because I couldn't. I've trained myself to operate without sleep before, but because I didn't want to miss a sound. Every creak in the walls felt like a whisper. Every gust of wind rattling the window made me wonder if they were back. I stayed in the crawl space under the guest room floor, the one no one even knows exists. It's tight, dusty, cold, but it's where I ran the hardwired audio feeds, and from there, I could hear everything. If there had been anything to hear, there wasn't. Not yet. I spent the time reviewing the audio from the past week. Most of it was routine, meaningless stuff. Cora on the phone with her sister, humming while she cooked, watching her reality shows. But yesterday afternoon, that's when the real show started. Cora's voice was low, deliberate. She said something about not waiting till September. She said he's clueless. If we're smart about it, he'll walk away without ever realizing we took anything. Then she laughed. Not that playful laugh I used to fall asleep beside. It was sharp, cold. The kind of laugh you only make when you think someone's powerless. Lyndon was there too. His voice was harder to place, like he was trying to stay calm, but didn't like being told what to do. He said he didn't want to leave a trail, and that they needed to be careful with the documents. I don't know what documents yet, but the moment he said that, I started scrolling through the encrypted backups I made of her laptop. I hadn't checked those files in months. Now I regret waiting that long. Turns out, Cora had been in contact with a man in New York under a different name. Multiple aliases. There were scanned PDFs of contracts, legal-looking but incomplete, in a strange folder labeled Charles. I haven't opened it yet. I don't know if I'm ready. Or maybe I already suspect what's inside. Here's what I do know. This wasn't just cheating. This was bigger. Financial. Strategic. Something that had been in motion for much longer than I'd realized. Something that involved me as a pawn, not a husband. So what did I do? I went outside just before sunrise, while the neighborhood was still dead quiet, and opened the old panel behind the garage. The circuit box is there, but so is something else, something I put there years ago during a home renovation. A weather-sealed metal box, bolted to the studs, hidden behind drywall, and a fake insulation sheet. Inside, a satellite uplink, a relay modem, and a tiny blinking LED. I turned it on. That little box doesn't look like much, but it sends out encrypted updates to an offshore server I've had running for a decade. Just in case. Some people collect stamps. Some people make bug-out bags. I build a digital deadman switch. If anything happens to me, certain files go public. Others get sent directly to addresses I haven't used since 2013. Cora never asked why I kept 2 separate safe deposit boxes under 2 different names. She never asked why I insisted on paying for the house in cash. She didn't care. But she will. Because if she and Lyndon really plan to take something from me, if they think I'll just walk away quietly, they're about to find out they've been living with someone far more dangerous than they ever imagined. The irony is, I would have forgiven her. Maybe not for the betrayal, but for the loneliness. I understand loneliness better than most men. But what I can't forgive is how calculated she was. How much she enjoyed it. How she looked me in the eye and smiled while burning the world we built together. That's not something you walk away from. That's something you bury. And Cora just handed me the shovel. I returned to the house around 3:45 a.m. Not through the front door, of course. I used the side crawl entrance near the hedge, the one I boarded up myself after a raccoon got in back in 21. She thought I sealed it permanently. I didn't. I left just enough space to slide through. Why? I don't know. Maybe some part of me knew I'd need to disappear inside my own home one day. I moved like a shadow, careful not to make the floor creak, careful not to touch the parts of the house that remembered me. I felt like a stranger in the walls of my own life. A ghost wandering the space he once called home, watching his own past breathe without him. Cora was asleep when I reached the main hallway. I could see her through the crack in the bedroom door, curled up on my side of the bed. That alone made something primal stir in me. That side was always colder. She hated it. But now she slept there like she owned it, like erasing me was just part of her new bedtime routine. Her phone was still glowing on the nightstand. I crept forward and picked it up gently, already wearing latex gloves. I wasn't interested in the messages. I'd read most of them remotely anyway. I was after the one thing she hadn't noticed I could track, the photo gallery. And there it was. A folder titled Pending. Dozens of pictures. Most looked ordinary. Receipts, scanned IDs, photos of documents, even a snapshot of my birth certificate. But one image stopped me cold. It was a picture of a floor plan. Our house. With red circles around the master closet, the attic, and the basement access panel. It wasn't taken from her phone. It was a picture of a picture, like someone had printed a map and she took a photo of it from her laptop screen. And in the corner, scribbled in pen, were the words, "Check for backups." That's when it hit me. They weren't just trying to leave me. They were planning to wipe me out. Digitally, legally, financially. The backups weren't for preservation. They were for erasure. They knew I kept layers. They knew there were pieces of me stored where most men don't even keep secrets. And now, they were hunting for them. I put the phone back exactly where it was, screen still dimly glowing. She shifted a little in her sleep and mumbled something. I held my breath. If she saw me now, everything would collapse too soon. But she didn't. She just rolled over and faced the wall, like she'd done for the last 6 months, even when I was still sleeping next to her. I made my way back to the hallway, then down to the basement, silent as a thought. There, behind the water heater, I kept another panel, fake drywall covering a lockbox embedded into the concrete. I opened it, removed a small silver key, and replaced everything exactly as it was. That key opens something she doesn't know exists. A unit I've kept across town, under a different name, with a single purpose, reset. Inside that unit are 3 things, a suitcase, a folder, and a burner laptop. The suitcase holds enough to disappear. The folder holds enough to ruin the kind of people who believe they're untouchable. And the laptop? Well, let's just say it's more powerful than it looks. The kind of power you only build when you've been preparing for betrayal since the first time someone looked at you like you were disposable. I left the house just before sunrise. Same way I came in. No trace. No sound. No goodbye. Later that morning, she texted me for the first time in days. "We need to talk. Something feels off." I didn't reply. She's starting to feel it. The presence. The pressure. Like air thickening before a storm. She doesn't know what's wrong. Only that something is shifting beneath her. She'll start double-checking locks. She'll wonder if she left something out. She'll ask Lyndon if he touched anything. He'll say no. And then they'll both begin to feel it, like cracks in glass you didn't notice until your fingers start to bleed. They thought I was predictable. That was their first mistake. And the second? They underestimated the man who spent his entire life preparing to be left behind. Cora doesn't know it yet, but the house is already turning on her. She came home today with grocery bags, milk, eggs, a rotisserie chicken, and a bottle of Pinot where she used to hate. I watched her from across the street, standing inside a parked landscaping van I'd rented under a fake name 2 days ago. She moved with that same tired rhythm I remember from our good years, like she was still pretending everything was fine, because if she stopped pretending for even a second, everything would collapse. I used to love that about her. Now, I see it for what it really was, performance. She walked into the house like she owned it, like it hadn't just betrayed her 5 minutes earlier. Because 5 minutes before she returned, a small device hidden in the wall behind the living room outlet sent a silent command to her smart speaker system, resetting all custom settings and renaming the primary account to mine. She won't notice it immediately. That's the beauty of it. At first, it'll be a song playing that she didn't request, then a missed reminder she thought she'd set. Then, one day soon, a voice command she never gave will trigger the system to play an old voicemail from me. She'll wonder if it's a glitch. She'll call tech support. They won't find anything. Because the system isn't broken. It's haunted. By me. Earlier that morning, I left a subtle trace inside her email. Not enough to alert her, just enough to leave a phantom draft. Half-written. Nonsensical. Addressed to no one. But the subject line read, "I know what you took." It'll sit there, unnoticed for days. Then one day, maybe during a client meeting or late at night when insomnia hits, she'll open drafts and see it. She won't remember writing it. She'll question herself, her memory, her sanity. That's not cruelty. That's justice, carefully portioned in psychological doses. I'm not trying to scare her. Not yet. I'm trying to show her what it feels like when the world you built starts whispering things you can't trace. But tonight, something happened I wasn't ready for. At exactly 8:16 p.m., I saw someone knock on the door. Not Lyndon. It was a woman, mid-40s, short hair, heavy coat despite the warm night. Cora answered. She looked confused, nervous. I watched their conversation unfold through the small lens I'd embedded in the neighbor's porch owl statue last fall. During the garden improvement phase, Cora pressured me into. Funny how things meant for beauty now serve surveillance. The woman handed Cora a thick envelope. Cora didn't invite her in. Just stared at the envelope like it had a pulse. Eventually, she closed the door. The woman left without a word. Cora opened the envelope in the living room. It was the first time I'd seen her look afraid. She read for a long time, page after page, lips slightly parted, as if she was forgetting to breathe. I couldn't see the papers clearly, but I didn't need to. I know what was in them. I didn't send it, but I recognized the layout, the formatting, the header. She just received a cease and desist order. Not from me. From someone tied to the offshore shell companies I established 5 years ago. Companies that now mysteriously own the rights to assets she recently tried to liquidate. She thought she was clever. Thought changing names and using proxies would cover her tracks. But she forgot where the track started. With me. This isn't just revenge. I'm not some scorned husband acting out a midlife meltdown. This is reclamation. Of identity. Of dignity. Of control. For too long, I bent my spine to make her comfortable. Shrunk myself to keep her from feeling caged. But when she let him into our bed, and then tried to erase me from the foundation I laid, she turned a quiet man into something else entirely. I don't want her hurt. I want her aware. I want her to wake up every day with questions she's afraid to ask out loud. And tonight, when she checked her bedroom door and found it slightly ajar, despite locking it earlier and double-checking the handle, I saw the first real crack in her composure. She's starting to see me in places I haven't even been, which is exactly the point. Because the next move isn't mine. It's hers. The mail arrived at 11:42 a.m. I know that because I was 2 houses down, raking leaves that weren't mine, wearing a uniform that didn't belong to any company that existed. I watched her through the reflection of a neighbor's truck window. She came out like she usually does, fast, distracted, checking her phone in one hand while fumbling with the mailbox key in the other. But when she pulled the bundle of letters out, something in her body language changed. Subtle. A freeze in the shoulders. A pause at the gate. She stood still for a few seconds longer than usual, staring down at one envelope tucked in the middle. Then, without looking around, she went back inside, faster this time. Her wine-red robe dragging on the front steps. That envelope didn't come from me either. But I knew what was inside, a photo. One she took 6 years ago, on her birthday, in our old cabin in Easton. She was laughing in that photo, flour on her nose, holding up a lopsided cake I baked from scratch. It wasn't a good photo. The lighting was awful. But it was intimate, private. It had never been printed or shared. It lived only in a forgotten cloud backup I stopped using when we moved. Until now. She'll try to tell herself it's a prank. Or a coincidence. She'll double-check her cloud passwords. She'll call customer support and report suspicious activity. They'll say everything looks normal. That nothing's been accessed in years. She'll sit in silence then, holding the photo, staring at her own smile like it's someone else's. Because it is. That woman, that Cora, is long gone. Now she's someone who checks over her shoulder, who turns her phone off when she enters a room, who turns it back on again 10 seconds later just to see if anything changed while she wasn't looking. She's unraveling. And the best part? I haven't laid a single hand on her world. I've only mirrored it back to her, piece by piece, exactly as she left it for me. Cold, calculated, empty. Lyndon still hasn't shown up in person again. But she called him today. 3 times. I intercepted the calls, recorded each one. The first call, she whispered like she thought someone was listening. She said things like, "I feel like he's watching me, and the lights are flickering again." She told him the porch camera went offline, even though she replaced the router 2 nights ago. Told him the stereo played static at 3 a.m. before shutting off on its own. I smiled when I heard that part. She didn't know I was the one who installed the third-party firmware on the stereo 2 years ago, giving it a remote trigger. Just in case. The second call was shorter. Tense. She asked him if he had mailed anything, if he'd talked to anyone. He snapped at her, told her she was being paranoid, that everything was fine, that if she kept acting like this, she was going to ruin everything. The third call went to voicemail. She didn't leave a message, just breathed into the phone for 7 full seconds before hanging up. She's spiraling, but she's still pretending she isn't. That's her weakness. She doesn't know how to admit fear without trying to disguise it as anger. So later that day, she started fighting back the only way she knows how, through control. She tore the house apart. I watched her from the crawl space again, through a pinhole camera hidden in the molding of the hallway baseboard. She started in the bedroom closet, yanking boxes, tossing bags. Then the bathroom. Then the kitchen. She was looking for something, though I don't think even she knew what. Bugs. Notes. A hidden camera? The ghost of guilt she keeps trying to label as paranoia? She stopped in the living room, standing in the middle of the rug like a soldier waiting for orders. And then she did something unexpected. She started talking out loud. "I know you're doing this," she said. Her voice was shaky, but not weak. "You think you're smarter than me? You think I'm going to fall apart? I'm not. I'm not scared of you." But she is. Not of me. Not exactly. She's scared of the reflection I'm holding up to her. The version of herself she doesn't want to see. The one who lied, who cheated, who smiled while laying bricks over the hole she planned to bury me in. But now, she's the one living in a maze. And the exit signs? I've turned them all backwards. It started with a missed alarm. Cora's phone didn't wake her up at 6:30 a.m. like it usually did. She overslept by almost 2 hours. By the time she scrambled downstairs, still in a t-shirt and half-brushed hair, her work laptop had already locked her out for inactivity. I watched her storm into the kitchen and jab at the screen like it owed her something. Her reflection in the microwave door looked exhausted, older somehow, like she hadn't truly slept in days. But she didn't know yet that the alarm never had a chance to go off. Because the night before, while she was in the bath with her eyes closed and earbuds in, I remotely accessed her phone's developer mode and quietly disabled every non-essential background process, except the one that made the screen flicker just long enough to seem like nothing was wrong. When she rebooted it, everything appeared normal. But nothing was. Cora finally snapped around noon. I could feel it, even before I saw it. She had been pacing the living room like a trapped animal for the better part of an hour, muttering under her breath, checking her blinds, double-checking every cabinet and drawer. Then she left. No keys. No bag. Just her phone clutched in one hand and a crumpled piece of paper in the other. She got into her car barefoot and backed out of the driveway like she was running from something instead of going somewhere. She didn't come back for 3 hours. When she did, she had company. A man. Not Lyndon. Older. Grayer. Professional-looking. He carried a sleek black case and wore gloves. Not medical, but the kind people use when they don't want to leave prints. She let him in quickly and shut the door behind them. I didn't recognize him, but I knew exactly what he was. A fixer. Not in the Hollywood sense. Not the kind who cleans up messes for crime families or corrupt politicians. No, this man was corporate grade, discreet, expensive, surgically efficient. The type people call when they want to secure their digital environment and verify exposure risks. Basically, someone who cleans digital footprints and patches leaks. Someone who would, under different circumstances, be hired by me. They spent 4 hours in the house. I didn't interfere. I wanted to see what he'd find. I wanted to know how much of me he could smell in the walls. He swept the rooms with a signal scanner, checked power outlets, vents, even the fridge seals. I watched him come inches from one of my cams. But he missed it, because I'd split the wiring between two non-adjacent walls and buried the transmitter in a Bluetooth speaker's printed circuit board. It emits just enough noise to blend in with household chatter. Eventually, he seemed satisfied, or at least confused. He packed his case, whispered something to Cora at the front door, and left without shaking her hand. I watched her linger in the doorway afterward, just standing there like she wasn't sure if the house would let her back in. That night, she made a move I didn't expect. She went to the attic. Cora hates the attic. Always said it smelled like old secrets. She never once went up there without me. And yet, tonight, flashlight in hand, she climbed the stairs alone. I held my breath as she opened the hatch. It creaked louder than usual, enough to make her freeze halfway through. She climbed inside anyway. She searched. She was looking for the safe. The one she thought I kept up there. The one she assumed held the backups, the files, the evidence. She dug through old Halloween decorations, wedding boxes, clothes we both pretended to donate years ago. She tore through every inch of that attic. But she didn't find it. Because there is no safe in the attic. There never was. The real safe? It's inside the wall behind the master bathroom mirror. To get to it, you'd have to remove the entire vanity, dismantle the wall studs, and use a rare industrial key designed for electrical vaults. It contains two things: the last unedited copy of our prenup, which she tried to replace months ago, and a USB drive with 6 video files I collected over the course of 9 weeks. Video files of them. Unedited. Uncompressed. Date-stamped. All legal. All admissible. She never knew I installed a camera inside the wall sconce above the guest bed. She never once asked why I replaced it with a newer model. She didn't care, because by then, she had already started erasing me. Now I'm just writing myself back in. When she came down from the attic, she looked defeated, drenched in sweat, clothes dusty, hair tangled. She sat on the edge of the couch for a long time, not moving. I watched her take out her phone, hover her finger over Lyndon's name, then put the phone down without calling. She stared at the black screen, eyes glassy, jaw tight. She's beginning to realize she doesn't know the rules of the game she thought she was winning. Because every step she takes leads her exactly where I want her to go. It was exactly 9:03 p.m. when Lyndon finally showed up. I knew he would eventually. People like him can't resist the smell of power crumbling. They treat someone else's chaos like a buffet, believing they're the only ones clever enough to leave full and clean. He didn't knock. Cora opened the door before he even reached it. She must have been waiting by the window, pacing like a dog too long caged. She pulled him inside fast, like the world outside couldn't be trusted anymore. It couldn't, of course, but that wasn't new. What was new was the panic buried in her voice, trying hard to sound calm. From my vantage point inside the abandoned trailer parked across the street, a trailer I'd paid to have accidentally towed and left there a week ago, I watched their silhouettes dance in the living room. I couldn't hear them directly, not yet, but I had triggered the return of the microphones in the hallway air vents. I disabled them briefly while the fixer was in the house. Now they were back, recording everything. The first 5 minutes of conversation were useless, whispers, pacing, small pieces of nervous laughter. But then Lyndon's voice broke through clearly. "You're losing it, Cora. He's not doing any of this. You are." I leaned forward. That told me everything I needed to know about him. Men like Lyndon don't believe in consequences until they're handcuffed to them. His voice was too calm, too controlled, like he still thought he could talk her down, fix it, manipulate her like he probably had a dozen others before her. But Cora wasn't the same woman she was 3 weeks ago. I had made sure of that. She snapped back at him, accused him of lying, accused him of sending the photo, the letter, the envelope with the floor plan. He denied it all. I believed him, because none of those things came from him. They came from me, slowly, methodically, like paper cuts in a place you can't reach. Lyndon moved around the house like he was hunting something. He checked the stereo, the kitchen drawers, even pulled the cover off the router. I almost laughed. He was too late, too blind, and entirely too arrogant. He had no idea that every move he made was being captured, recorded, time-stamped, and stored, off-site and automatically synced. He didn't even know he'd already been documented on 3 separate days entering the house while I was still married to her. That's more than enough. But I wasn't done. Cora, meanwhile, was unraveling in real time. Her voice cracked when she said, "What if he's watching us right now?" Lyndon told her to calm down, to sit down, to stop being paranoid. But she didn't. She started moving through the house again, pulling open drawers, flipping couch cushions, looking for bugs she would never find. They were built into the fixtures, painted into the wood grain, embedded into the outlets, hidden in the quietest corners, the ones no one bothers dusting anymore. Then she did something I didn't expect. She opened the basement door. Lyndon told her not to go down there. He followed her anyway. But Cora was ahead of him now, both physically and mentally. She wasn't looking for something anymore. She was looking to destroy it. I watched on the basement cam as she grabbed the hammer off the old tool bench and started swinging. Pipes, boxes, the breaker panel, screaming, crying, swinging again and again, missing half the time but not caring. Just breaking. And then the lights went out. All of them. House, street, trailer, block, total blackout. Lyndon shouted something. I couldn't make it out over the static, but then the emergency generator in the basement kicked on. I had installed it 3 years ago. Quiet, efficient, set to a private circuit I never registered in the home system. The lights flickered back, but only one room came back online. The guest bedroom. The same room where they first touched. The same room where the recordings were made. Cora froze in the basement. Lyndon's voice dropped to a whisper. What is this? On the guest bedroom television, triggered remotely, connected through a hidden relay, one of the videos began to play. The sound was off, but the image was clear. Cora, Lyndon, together, her hand on his face, his voice close to her neck. A betrayal caught in high definition. Unedited. Framed perfectly. Lyndon bolted up the stairs. Tried to pull the power cord. There wasn't one. The video kept playing. Cora didn't follow him. She stood in the basement, staring at the wall like she could still see it from there. She was shaking now, not with fear, with understanding, that everything she thought was buried was alive and watching her. She sat down on the bottom step, face in her hands. Lyndon came back into view and shouted her name. She didn't answer, and for the first time since this began, I saw something new in her face. Not guilt, not fear, not confusion, resignation. The moment a person realizes they've already lost, but haven't hit the ground yet. They're just waiting for the impact. It took me 3 days to return to the house. Not to sneak in, not to leave another breadcrumb or trigger another switch. Just to stand across the street in the early morning light, hands in my pockets, and breathe. The trailer was gone now. Towed off by the city, right on schedule. My surveillance setup had been wiped, devices scrubbed and disposed of, with no digital trace left behind. The cameras were dead. The feeds were silent. The game, if you could call it that, was over. And I'd won. But for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry or vindicated or cold. I just felt still. Inside the house, I could see Cora moving slowly. Cleaning. No calls. No Lyndon. He'd disappeared after the video. Probably convinced himself he was the victim, too. That's how people like him survive. Cora hadn't called me. She hadn't tried to explain or beg or accuse. I think she finally understood the line she crossed and how deliberate it had all been. I watched her open a window, then sit down at the kitchen table with a mug of tea. Mint. Her fingers curled around it like she was trying to keep something warm in herself. I used to think that was just a nervous habit. Now I knew better. She was trying to hold on to what little piece she still had. And maybe that was enough. I walked away, not because I was afraid or because I had more work to do, but because I didn't need anything else from her. Not revenge, not closure, not even guilt. I'd reclaimed the things I lost, piece by piece, not by destroying her, but by letting her feel the weight of her own decisions, alone. But this isn't how the story ends. Because a week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just one sheet of paper. There was a time when I loved you honestly, and another when I didn't, but wished I did. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope one day you find someone who sees you as you are and stays. I stared at that note for a long time. It wasn't an apology. Not really. It was something more rare, the truth. And it didn't make everything okay, but it did close the door without slamming it. In the months that followed, I moved out of state. Took a new job in a city where no one knew my name. I started going to a small coffee shop in the mornings, where I always order the same thing: black coffee, no sugar. The barista writes my name wrong every time, and I don't correct her. It feels good, in a strange way, like I get to be someone else, just for 5 minutes. And one morning, while I sat by the window reading the paper, a woman in a navy coat asked if she could sit across from me. There were empty tables, but she chose mine. She smiled and said, "You look like someone who sees more than he says." I don't know what's going to happen, but I smiled back. And for the first time in a long time, the world didn't feel like something I had to outsmart to survive. It felt quiet, manageable, maybe even full of good people, if you know where to look. Sometimes, healing isn't loud. Sometimes it's just the sound of nothing breaking.